everybody. Raul here for Bass Musician Magazine, and today we have the great honor and pleasure of chatting with the very iconic, somebody I know you've all seen, Ida Nielsen.
Hey.
So there's so much we want to talk about, Ida, but I do like to go back to the past so people can kind of know where you came from. How did you get started in music and particularly on bass?
Yeah, the bass thing was actually a little bit of a coincidence, but I grew up in the countryside in Denmark, and I went to a small school that had a very engaged music teacher who were doing a lot of after-school choirs, and I played piano a little bit, and so I was always into music. And then one day at the school, we got an electric bass and a drum kit, and I really loved the drums. So but I tried out the bass a little bit, and then one of the girls in the choir asked me if I wanted to join. She was in a band, and they had a concert, and the bass player just quit, and they had a concert in 14 days, do we want to do it? I was like, yeah, why not? And I only knew like the name of the strings, and then G, C, and F. That was it. And I was like, why not? And then I met with the band and we rehearsed, and I didn't really like the music so much, and I thought it was a little bit boring because there was a lot of like boom kind of it. So then at the same concert, there was these young guys who were playing their own music, and it was funk, a version of funk anyways, from Denmark. And the bass player was just going in, and I never heard anything like it. And I was floored by it immediately. And then I went home and I tried to see if I can do it too. And then all of a sudden I got interested in it, and then I got hooked. So.
Got you. And did you pursue studies with this, or are you self-taught, or?
Like, I was 16 at the time, and then right after I started high school, and there were some other guys who had a bass teacher, and they were really good, and I was like, I want a teacher too, and I got a teacher, so I had the teacher. And then later on, I actually was at the Conservatory of Music in Denmark. I mean, when I started out, it was not, I did not plan to become a bass player at all. I didn't think that was what was going to happen, but that's how it ended. Yeah.
Yeah, you never know how the journey is going to go.
No.
And every little block along the way that helps kind of build that road. And so I'm sure with the conservatory, it's a more classical approach, but it's good for your music theory.
Yeah, I mean, the conservatory here in Denmark has like a rhythmical section, which is like concentrating more of jazz and rock. Okay. And so I mainly played the funk music by myself because there was not a lot of people who were into it, just me. So, yeah.
So how did you make the leap across the pond? Because simultaneously, again, funk was been happening here in the U.S. They're kind of going back. You look at some of the James Brown, Bootsy, all of the old school funk stuff.
Yeah.
How did you transition to here? Because I know you kind of made a splash onto the scene.
Well, actually, when I was about 14, I saw a documentary on TV about James Brown. And I never heard anything like that. I was like, this music is so cool. And then I went out, and, this was before iTunes and YouTube. And also there was a lot of music that was not actually accessible in Denmark at the time. And I had friends who went on trips to the States and went into record stores and came home with suitcases full of CDs. That just hit me immediately when I heard it. I was like, whoa, that's cool. And then mostly like what I heard was like Danish music from the radio, so it was a little different. But then, of course, also like Prince, Michael Jackson was really big. So I also grew up listening to that, of course.
Now, you played with Prince.
Yes.
And how did that come about? How were you able to get into the band? I mean, this is...
Yeah, it was so crazy for me because it was my biggest dream come true, and I'm thinking everybody who ever played with him had that same, like it was the biggest dream come true. But yeah, I got a call one day from his manager who asked if I wanted to come to Minneapolis to jam for some days. And I thought it was a joke. And she was like, yeah, I'll call you back. And then I didn't hear anything for like 2 weeks. So I was like, oh, somebody's, joking with me. I really thought it was a joke. And I also learned like everybody else thought it was a joke when they got the call. But, yeah, and then I went to Minnesota and I met Prince and I met John Blackwell and we jammed. And, after about 20 minutes, he was like, yeah, we're going on tour. Are you available? That was in 2010. And basically we just went on tour from then.
There's so much in the musical richness and the progression. So I know you were touring around 6 years, and as we continue to move forward, you've carried on with your movement. Currently, you've got a band, the Funk Bots.
Yes.
I know you guys are keeping that whole funk movement alive, and I'm really thrilled to see that there is a very strong push in the direction of funk players. You still see some of the iconic ones like Bootsy, but you have Freak Bass, Robert Harper, even Brian Brongbird did a funk album with Thicker Than Water, and so it is such a contagious music. It's great to see that you have taken that and you're running with it. You guys have a tour in Europe. It's starting out, at least. I'm sure it probably will extend, but the dates I saw for now were kind of spring to midsummer or early summer.
Yeah, we start in March, and the Europe tour ends in mid-May, and then we will actually be touring a lot in the summer too, but the States are not quite in the open yet.
And you guys just dropped a new album.
Yes. Yeah, well, it's more of it's an album that I made because I wanted to do something on February 2nd because I thought it was such a cool date. And, I'm writing music all the time, and I'm actually also in the works of another funk album, but I didn't have the time to finish it for this date. And then I have all this other music, and I decided to go with that because it's a special date, and I feel like this is going to be my 5th solo album. And all the album has been pretty much straight up funk in different versions. And I thought it was actually nice to do something a little bit different. So this is quite a chill out kind of album. There's still a lot of bass in it, and I do a lot of chords on the bass, and everything is kind of built around the bass, but it's not, it's not like a bass album with lots of bass melodies and slap. I'm not slapping at all on the album, which is the first for me. So it's a little different.
And I know probably a lot of people don't realize that you're also a vocalist. You sing, and you play keys. I see the piano behind you. And I think all of us always think of you as, on bass, but you do have that other side, the complements all of the funk.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just happy to do this. I mean, I consider myself a bass player, and I can also play keys, and I can also sing, but I'm not a singer, and I'm not a keyboard player. I'm a bass player that does other stuff too. So, if you dive into other instruments, it's gonna be good for your ears or for the way you, for composing, it's completely different what comes out if I'm sitting on the bass and creating some music, or if I'm on the piano, or if I'm on a guitar. It's going to be 3 different types of music that comes out of it. So it's me. I just love to make music. So.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, and as a bass player, we should probably talk a little bit about gear, because it's the gear that gives you your voice. And I know in particular, they'd always love to start with your signature. You've got a Sandberg signature bass.
Yes, I do. Yeah, man, I'm so happy with it. It's a luxury to be able to make a signature bass where you basically decide how it's going to sound and what it's going to look like. And, I had the opportunity. I went to the workshop of Sandberg in Germany and tried out. They have a tester bass where I could try different pickups and the positions of the pickups, which was really, really fun to find the sound. And it was very interesting because normally, to be honest, I'm not too nerdy with it. I just like to plug and play, and I want it to sound good. But it was interesting to me to find that if I had one position on one pickup, it would sound really good, but then the blend would be horrible. And so it's not only to find one pickup, like one good position, but also to find the blend of them. It was fun. So I feel like I made a bass with Holger that really meets everything that I'm looking for sound-wise in a bass, and it looks very cool too. So,
Yes.
yeah.
It has quite the striking stage presence. Just looking at it, it's very ornate and very, very cool. But also with the black and the gold coloring,
Yeah.
is very sleek. So that's very cool. Other components of your sound. I know you're using Ike amplification.
Yeah, I've been with Ike for about 2 years now, and I feel like the Ike amp in combination with my bass just make, it's really my sound. I feel like this is how I want it to sound always.
Gotcha.
Because I feel like with the Ike amps, no matter which bass I put in, it really just makes the bass sound its best. I also have like a really old jazz bass that sounds incredible, and it sounds amazing there. And then my signature bass, it's like everything. It just have a warmth, but a punchiness and a crispiness. It just have everything I would like it to have, and it just make the sound of my bass more clear, I think.
Got you. Now, do you have a preference in strings?
I do. I'm playing currently DR strings, the pure blues,
Okay.
which I love. When I play my own stuff, my funky stuff, I do a lot of fast slapping that maybe you won't do if you're playing a rock band or something. There's because it's my music and I write it. There's definitely a lot of space for the bass, so that's how it is, and I'm allowed to it in my band. I use on my 4-string 40s to 100, so they're a little bit thinner, but then it allows me to bend the strings and do like fun stuff that I like to do a little easier. And on the 5-string, it's still 40 to 120, but it's the pure blues because they are really very well bendable. I feel like they sound really great, and then they fit my style very good.
Very nice.
Yes.
And an important part of the sound chain, and I think one that many musicians tend to kind of take for granted, is instrument cables. Because here you've got this wonderful bass, you've got these great strings, you've got a super amp, and you need to connect them somehow in between. Now, you're playing with tsunami cables?
Yes, I am. Yeah, I'm super lucky because I'm endorsed by what I feel like is the best gear. At least for me, it's like I'm really, really happy. Those cables are just, I feel like the sound goes, there's no loss of sound through those cables. It's like they're really, really great. I'm just super lucky.
There you go. And
yeah.
My understanding is they're also very durable and strong because you're playing a lot.
Oh, yeah. I have like 3 cables, and I've had them like since they're just lasting. There's been no problems with them. So it's great.
One last detail when we talk about kind of the initial sound, and that is you use fret wraps.
Yes, I do. When I discovered the fret wraps first time, because I saw these videos with Victor Wooten using like a hair thingy.
A scrunchie.
And yeah. And I did that too. So when I found out there was actually these fret wraps, I was like, whoa, that's fantastic. I can't believe nobody ever thought of it. It's genius. And I love it because for my music, because I do a lot of slapping and stuff, it's really great to have the possibility of muting. And when you play a 5-string, I do think it's, you should always have it because that low B is just singing along unless it's muted. And my hands are not so long.
Gotcha. From there, we leap off into the amazing pedal board and all kinds of ways. I know you've got a collection of pedals.
I do.
But any particular ones that would be the key pedals that you find are pivotal for your sound?
Yes, I mean, actually, recently, because I'm traveling so much and it's hard to bring the whole pedal board, I've now changed to the Helix. They made like a little stump box from Line 6, and I can have my favorite sounds that I use the most, which is Touchoir I love to play touch wireless solos. I love when it sounds like a chicken, and then you just go bop, bop, bing, bop, all that. And then I love to have an octave or two for soloing, and I like to add a little octave lower and an octave above to have a wider sound and to be able to sing a little bit more on the bass, because the guitar players just keep that one cool note for a long time and it's just fantastic, but if you do it on the bass it's just like boom. So to have a little bit some more frequencies going on, it helps to be able to do that, to sing a little bit on the bass, So that's it. And then I like to have a reverb of a kind for when I play my chord stuff.
Sure.
And that's like the basic. But if I have a bigger board, like with all the pedals, from Prince, he always wanted me to use a fuzz, and he wanted me specifically to use the Dan Electro Fabtone. So I have a bunch of those, and they're out of production, and they really do a very good imitation of an old 70s fuzz pedal.
Nice.
I think. And I like the Crybaby Wah, because the one you can control yourself, because I love the touch wah, of course, the envelope filter, but I love also if you can control it yourself, so you can do like a long bow like that.
Yeah.
Just on the one, like a heavy one, and then just play a normal, and then bow. So if I got room on the board, that's definitely going to be there too.
Well, and it's kind of one of those things that, with so many different kinds of music and the sound, the demands of what you need, if you're playing heavy metal, you're going to have one kind of pedal board demand. If you are playing straight jazz, you may not need or use any pedal at all. And with obviously with what you're doing, I could totally see, a wah and everything you've described is fitting in to give you your particular sound. Are there any other key components that you feel are essential, or things that maybe you've liked to try to implement into your sound chain?
I always think it's fun to try like if I hear about a new pedal, I get curious. I want to try it. So I try a lot of stuff that I come around, but I kind of most of the time end up using like my basic ones, but I do interchange once in a while and then I kind of end up back, but it's more like if you're on the road a lot, you just want the stuff to work. That's me again, not being particularly good with the tweaking always.
That's a very practical approach, and you do. The more things you have, the more things that can go wrong. Definitely.
For sure, yeah.
And we had the chance, we're interviewing one of the Broadway players. He plays with Hamilton.
Oh, yeah.
And they have 2 full pedal boards, just in case something goes wrong. But who can do that? That's a lot of pedals and a lot of pedal boards. So, you need
a full production to...
Exactly. You have to have somebody carrying all your stuff all the time to do that. Yeah. Looking ahead, I know you've got the touring, you've just released your album. What projects, what things are you looking at doing in the future?
Well, right now, that's it. What I'm doing now, I just would like to build my band even more. I'm super duper grateful for all the people who actually want to hear some funky music, because it's not, at least here in Denmark, it's not a mainstream genre at all. And, so I'm just really grateful that I can tour so much, and there's people who wants to come and hear. Yeah, so that's what I want to do. I want to play music and I want to write music. And who knows? I feel actually very good about doing this, my newest album, which is a little bit different. So I might do something later on also a little bit different, but I'm mainly focusing on that, because after playing with Prince, it was like insane how much I learned, and it was, to me, he was the biggest. So after that, I was like, well, who are you going to play with after? Unless you get a cool call, but it's like, you don't really want to go back, and I've wanted to do something like creatively that made me feel good, and it does to write music and to play it. And so So basically, that's where I'm not thinking too far ahead. I'm just enjoying that it's possible at all to do it. So,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Well, and if people want to know more about what you're doing, I have idanielsenbass.com is your website.
Yes. Yeah.
And then social media, another really good place to look at what you're doing.
Yes, I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Spotify. That's not social media, but I'm on Spotify.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, and I have a YouTube channel that's a little bit secret, but it's there. But everything will be linked from my website. You can find everything on my website. So.
Gotcha. Well, we appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to chat with us. We're very excited about all the funk that you're bringing and all that other music too, because again, it's like all the colors of the rainbow. There's got to be a little of different colors, or it can't all be all blue or all green. There's got to be some reds and yellows and oranges in between. So all of that is very exciting, folks. You've seen her here on Bass Musician Magazine, Ida Nielsen.
Hey.